Such a disappointing loss for the Kings against the Bulls. It was kind of one that I thought might be coming after that Cleveland game, but I was just really hoping that it wasn't and that the Kings were going to take care of business because, I mean, the Kings have taken care of business against weaker opposition lately, but after beating Cleveland, after an amazing effort, especially setting the tone on the defensive side of the floor against the Cavaliers, it was just the complete opposite in this game. And I'm sick of talking about it, but it just keeps happening. Zach LaVine was out last game. Now he comes back into the starting lineup. And then, wow, the Kings don't set the tone defensively. Setting the tone defensively matters. Don't let the first half or the first quarter fool you because the Kings were up and they got up 19. Don't let that fool you. They did not play well defensively at all in the first half. It was super disappointing. The way they came out, there was just no defense being played. And the reason they were up was because the Bulls were missing, frankly, some easy shots, and because they themselves could not miss from three. But as we saw, those 3-point shots did not end up being sustainable. And so then they got kind of drawn into a 3-point heavy game against one of the defenses that gives up a bunch of paint points, against a defense where we should be able to go right by these perimeter players for the Bulls and finish at the rim when it's Vucevic inside. But I feel like early on, hitting all those threes kind of lulled the Kings into a little bit of a false sense of security and kind of established some bad habits in this game. And I feel like that happens to a lot of teams in the NBA. That's just something that I think is really common when you start out really hot, hitting a bunch of threes and you're feeling good, and maybe you start to lean into the threes a little too much or let off the gas defensively. And I think early on, especially that first quarter where the Kings hit 11 three-pointers, they hit 11 threes, ended up hitting 15 on the game. It felt like a lot of the games that we've played against the Jazz, where the Jazz, we just kind of get to bomb away from three. And then we make these threes, and the Jazz a lot of times would push back quickly the other way, and the Kings would not play good transition defense, and there would be, a one-on-one on the other side of the court after a made basket. But because the Jazz aren't very good, they haven't capitalized, and so the Kings have won a ton of games against the Jazz, getting away with it. And those games against the Jazz, they reminded me a lot of what was happening at the start of this game, where the Kings were coming down and scoring, and Malik Monk would hit a three or Trey Lyles would hit a three, but then they weren't getting back defensively, and they were allowing the Bulls to just so quickly push the pace and get right by to the rim to either spray out for a three or get an easy layup. And one of the problems was Jonas Valanciunas not being able to get out to Vooch on the perimeter, and Vooch was hitting from deep. He went 4 for 5 from three, and so Valanciunas only ended up playing 15 minutes, which was pretty similar to what we've been seeing recently, where Valanciunas just isn't really able to keep up defensively. So we go with Trey Lyles, and luckily Lyles had an amazing game, so that wasn't really a problem. But I just think the Kings defense early on, they weren't committed to getting back in transition, and I feel like they didn't really feel the need to get a stop when they were scoring so much offensively. And the Bulls in that first quarter, they started really hot, then they cooled off. And so it looked like we were kind of getting away with the poor defense. Because Malik hit those 4 early threes, DeMar hit one. The offense was just flying, even though they missed some shots around the rim, like Valanciunas and LaVine missed some shots. But they were obviously making up for that from the 3-point line. But even when Monk was knocking down all those threes, he kept celebrating, and then all of a sudden the Bulls were attacking him. He had a really bad defensive game, even though he was amazing offensively. And, this game isn't really on Malik Monk because he did so much offensively. But I just think that kind of play where Monk knocks down a three and then all of a sudden, he's kind of celebrating and he's not getting set defensively and he's getting blown by, that's what the Kings were doing as a whole. Keegan was really the only guy playing good defense early on, and that was important because he was guarding Kobe White and he was holding Kobe White to pretty much nothing. Keegan also had a couple of threes that just went down and out. He almost got in on the party, but the Bulls were doing some interesting things, like DeRozan getting the ball in the post and just doubling him off of Malik Monk, and when Monk had made like 4 threes already, so he just drains a fifth. When Lyles came in to play the 5. The Kings started to give up some offensive rebounds. That was a bit of a problem. They gave up 12, which isn't a crazy amount, but it's not great. So the rebounding was a bit of a problem. But Trey Lyles came in and was knocking down the threes. What the Kings were trying to do a lot offensively was go pick and pop with Lyles. And the Bulls were ready for it. Like, they were sitting on those passes, so they started getting some deflections. But the Kings were able to adjust and find other ways around it. We went with a lineup of Devin Carter, Keon Ellis, Zach LaVine, Jake LaRavia, and Trey Lyles. I thought there was really good ball movement, at least on the first possession that unit was playing together, that resulted in a Lyles 3. And so it was Trey Lyles and Malik Monk, two streaky guys who have been struggling this season from 3, peaking at the same time, which was awesome in the first quarter. And I think that unit to end the first quarter with the bench in there was doing a really good job. Keon and Carter defensively. And I thought LaVine was doing a good job of driving and kicking out and getting that ball movement started. And from there, other guys were able to drive and keep the ball moving. Jake LaRavia hit a 3. But then there was another one of those moments where LaRavia hit that 3. It was their 10th 3 out of 11 made field goals. But then Patrick Williams just comes straight down the court and draws a foul. Because it was Jake LaRavia who had just made that shot, who had to get back and was the only one back, and there's no help there. So the Kings were up 11 by the end of the first quarter. It felt like it kind of should have been more. And so that's why I said it felt like one of those games against the Jazz, where things just get a little too open for my liking. And once you stop knocking down all those threes, then maybe it doesn't go so great, because the Kings only made one field goal that wasn't a 3. 11 made field goals 11 made 3-point field goals in that first quarter. And so with that bench unit, with Zach LaVine leading it, right when it went out there, I was a little nervous about how the offense was going to be, but I thought it was good. The ball movement was good. LaVine was driving and making things happen. But then LaVine kind of just stopped. And from there, he had an invisible game. He wasn't anywhere to be found. And it was just a very frustrating watch for him, because he was so passive, and he was doing the thing where he was standing in the corner and then the ball would come to him, and it's like he wasn't ready for it, and he wouldn't make a decisive move, and he wasn't ready to catch and shoot, and then he would just kind of stand there for a bit and then take a tougher step back 3, or just kind of go nowhere. He wasn't being decisive with the ball. And I just wanted to see him driving the ball more, because we saw how successful Malik Monk was at driving the ball, getting inside. Because props to Malik, he started this game on fire from 3, but then later on, he was attacking and getting inside. And that was the right mentality from Monk. So the Kings had to get downhill, or else they were going to kind of waste the great shooting that they started with. And there just aren't that many guys on this team that are really going to take it to the rim outside of Monk and LaVine. Like, occasionally DeRozan will do it, and he did it a few times in this game. But other than that, I'm not all that confident in a LaRavia or a Carter or a Lyles going to the rim, although Lyles did do a good job of that this game. And Trey didn't settle, because, like I said at the start of the second quarter, they needed to get downhill, or else they were going to waste that shooting. Zach Collins got a couple of hooks inside where he got deep against Lyles, because we're playing smaller. And so the Kings needed to find some offense. And it was Trey Lyles getting inside. He could have settled for multiple looks on this one possession, and he didn't. He got inside. He drew a foul. He knocked them down. And then Monk started to do the same. And so offensively, it was the right mentality from those guys. And I think that was also one of the only times where the Kings were really playing some solid defense with Trey Lyles, with Devin Carter. They had some really nice moments navigating screens together. Devin Carter drew a moving screen. Trey Lyles had a great stop at the rim going straight up, and that led to the Kings getting down the court. And then Devin Carter drove and banked it in. I don't think he really meant to go bank there, but we'll take it. And Billy Donovan ended up getting a technical, I think, because he thought that what Trey Lyles did was a foul, which it definitely wasn't. And the Kings' offense during this stretch, when they were playing some better defense, wasn't great, because there was Jake LaRavia driving maybe a little out of control. There was Devin Carter driving maybe a little out of control, and they were kicking out, and guys were leaving their feet for passes. It wasn't the best offense, but I think it was still good to see those guys trying to drive, trying to make things happen, not just settling for passing around the perimeter. And you don't need to be perfect offensively when you are playing defense, when you have Devin Carter in there playing some really nice defense, and Jake LaRavia and Trey Lyles. And so that's what can be frustrating about this team, because in the moments where they are playing kind of perfect offense, they can't miss. Like in the first quarter, it feels like they should be up more. And instead, the Bulls were still right there. There was a point, I think it was like 17-14 maybe, where it felt like the Kings hadn't missed a shot, but you're still in a close game because you just haven't been playing any defense until the bench finally came in. The Bulls tried to go to a zone. That didn't work at all. The Kings made one pass into the middle of the zone, and then Keegan was somehow wide open on the wing. Keegan also had another nice take to the rim for a dunk. Valanciunas had a really nice seal inside. But then DeMar, he tried to go at Kevin Huerter in the post. And as someone who's watched a ton of Kevin Huerter, the one thing Kevin Huerter can do is stand there and guard someone in the post. So that was just, it was the wrong approach from DeMar there, trying to just go straight into Kevin Huerter. If you just take, one step to the right or one step to the left, Kevin, you're going to be right by Huerter. If you try to go right through him, that's where Huerter can actually defend. So there were a couple of bad possessions there of DeMar trying to go straight through Huerter. But then DeMar finally got it going a little bit, going against Booz Ellis. He had a nice baseline fade and another midi. And there was just some really nice defensive moments from Keegan guarding Kobe White, making him uncomfortable. And then Kobe White finally got an open three, and he missed it. And I think you can attribute that somewhat to luck, but then also somewhat to Keegan just not allowing him to have any flow at all in that first half. And then Valanciunas had a really nice block that led to Malik Monk getting out in transition with a great finish. And the Kings had a 19-point lead there, but they didn't finish the quarter strong. And it just started with gifting the Bulls some easy points. Valanciunas getting a foul going after an offensive rebound, but you're in the penalty, so you give the Bulls free throws. And then DeMar turned it over, and Keegan turned it over, and the Bulls cut it to 11, and the Kings had to call a timeout. And so it's not like I didn't expect at some point the Bulls to make a run, but it was Malik Monk came out of the game. The Kings offense wasn't clicking as much, so they were hurting themselves offensively with either the foul on the offensive rebound or the turnovers. Then Kevin Huerter started to get it going, which was not fun, hitting a three and getting a layup off the glass. The offense at that point, it was all DeMar because you just had LaVine not really doing anything. When Monk went out, there were a few possessions where they tried to, keep moving the ball, but then there was just really nothing happening. So DeMar kind of had to take it into his own hands and get some offense. And he did get to the line, found Keegan in the corner for three, which was big. And so we were up 9 at halftime, but the Bulls closed with a 15-5 run. And they were just taking advantage of the poor transition defense, the poor paint defense, and LaVine not being aggressive, which really hurt the Kings offensively in the minutes where Malik Monk wasn't on the floor. And the Bulls came out strong at the start of the third quarter. Kevin Huerter was really using his size against Malik Monk. Monk just, he couldn't stop him inside. That's a massive size differential. And then Vooch hit back-to-back threes. And so that was the moment where I'm like, yeah, it's got to be Trey Lyles the rest of the game, because Valanciunas just can't get out to Vooch. The Kings were able to kind of just stay ahead, and it was through Keegan playing some nice defense, got a really nice transition block, like chase down block. And then there was just a great Trey Lyles sequence where he drives and draws a foul. Then he got a huge block, and LaVine found him running the floor for a dunk. And so that was a big response to that early Bulls run. But then the Kings got into a bit of foul trouble. They had 4 fouls with 7 minutes, 27 seconds left to go in the third quarter. And from the first half, the Kings really tried to make an adjustment to defend the paint. But when they made that adjustment, now all of a sudden they can't guard the three-point line. And so it was an overcompensation, like a play where Keon is closing out on, I think it was Trey Jones, right? And he closes out hard, and Trey Jones is able to drive middle on him. Keon stayed with him, but he's able to drive middle. And so that forced LaRavia to help inside, because he's thinking that Lyles is going to step up for the help, so that LaRavia is going to need to be there on Vooch inside. And so it ended up being unnecessary help from LaRavia, but also I understand why he did it, because Keon let Jones get to the middle of the floor, and so then Huerter was open in the corner. And that's how really a lot of the Bulls 3-pointers were made, were similar plays like that, with the Bulls just penetrating, getting to the middle of the floor. Trey Jones, I thought, did a really good job of that. And then Kobe White just started heating up, and he got wherever he wanted on the floor. Like, there was a play where Keegan did stay in front of, I think it was Kobe White, but Trey Lyles still helps in. And Vooch is there to hit his 4th 3 of the game. And the rebounding was a bit of a problem. The thing that was keeping us ahead by a little bit was Trey Lyles. Like, he went into the post, end of the shot clock, drew a foul. DeMar also made some shots, got to the free throw line, had a chance at the free throw line if he made both to get to 25,000 points. Missed both free throws. He missed both free throws. Kobe White comes down, gets an and one. I don't think it should have been continuation, but still gets the and one. The Kings started to get a little loose with the ball. Some turnovers. The Bulls were not at all loose with the ball. The Kings were not forcing any turnovers. And that's how the Bulls were able to really tie this game up. But it was Devin Carter, Keon Ellis. They came in, trapped Trey Jones in the front court, forced a turnover, and then Devin Carter drew a foul on a screen that got called a flagrant foul on Patrick Williams. I don't know. I don't really think it should have been flagrant, but we got that flagrant call. Devin Carter misses both free throws. Then DeMar misses a shot on the ensuing possession, and Kobe White runs down the floor and gets another really easy and one against Keon Ellis, and that was Keon's 4th foul. So the Kings had missed 4 free throws in a row, plus missed out on the extra possession due to the flagrant, and let the Bulls just walk right down the court and get an and one. The fouls were a very big problem, but it was just not being able to stay in front of these Bulls guards, and the Bulls just doing more of what the Kings should have been doing, which was attacking, because one of the Kings' weaknesses is that perimeter defense. Malik Monk, DeMar DeRozan, Zach LaVine, and the Bulls were also, like, Kobe White started to go by Keegan. Keegan had him locked up in the first half, not in the second half. And he was going by Jake LaRavia too. So they were just able to get past our perimeter defender so easily. On the other side, the Kings weren't taking advantage of the Bulls having that exact same weakness. And so it took Monk coming back into the game. And right when he came back into the game, he goes straight to the rim and gets a big and one to kind of stop the bleeding a bit. And so it really just was Monk attacking the rim. And DeMar was chipping in with some, mid-rangers, but it was all Malik Monk. Down the stretch of the third quarter, he had 2 more really strong takes to the rim, also drew an illegal screen, which was very odd. But that was all just to keep the Kings attached, because Kobe White hit a deep 3 when Devin Carter backed off because he was trying to navigate the screen. And then Trey Jones just walking down the court easily for a layup. It's been a while since I've seen the Kings play this poor of defense. It used to be more common that the Kings would just let guys walk down the court for layups, like Trey Jones did multiple times. So I guess that's, I'm trying to be a little positive here. We haven't seen that in a very long time. It feels like that used to be more common like last season, but obviously it was very disappointing in this game. So Kings down 3 going into the 4th quarter. But still, you're only down 3. That hot shooting to start the game gave you a lot of leeway here to play some pretty awful defense for the rest of the game. Just lock in the 4th quarter, and Malik Monk was doing everything he could offensively. Had a behind the back just like he did against Max Strus to close the game against Cleveland. Had it for a midi, and then another great take to the rim for a layup. But it was just the Kings' inability to stay in front of Kobe White. He got his 3rd and 1 of the game, I think it was. And it was just the same thing every time. Him going right and drawing foul after foul after foul, no matter who was on him. And we figured out eventually that the best matchup was Devin Carter. And so Devin Carter, another game where he was important down the stretch, but everyone was just getting cooked off the dribble. I mean, Jake LaRavia got beat off the dribble by Patrick Williams. Like, come on. And LaRavia did have some nice defensive plays. He had a nice block, but he also was having trouble staying in front of the Bulls. LaVine finally decided to make a little cameo appearance with a dunk and a three, but then he just went back to sleep after that. And again, it was the hustle guys that tried to keep the Kings in it, where Devin Carter pushes the ball up the floor. And even though he didn't really find anything right away, he turns back, but then he's able to find LaRavia under the rim because he opened that up, and LaRavia got an and one. Then LaRavia had a nice putback. And then I really think like the kind of big moment in this game was Kevin Huerter. He went right at Malik Monk for a finish. And then Devin Carter drives it the other way. And it felt like he was in control of his drive. It looked like such a nice move. Like it really felt like he kept control. But then he still missed the layup. And the Bulls pushed the other way, and Kevin Huerter hits a transition three. So that was a tough sequence. The Kings were still in it, of course, at that point, but that was a tough sequence. We had LaRavia playing the 5 at that point, and then eventually LaRavia came out and Keegan started playing the 5. We were just searching for any answers to be able to stay in front of the Bulls on the perimeter, because that was the biggest problem. And Monk was doing everything he could, drawing another moving screen, drawing fouls, getting downhill to the basket, but Kobe White was doing the same thing. And Devin Carter came out of the game for a bit, and Kobe White went right back to attacking Keegan and drawing another foul. I've never seen Keegan have, or it's been a very long time since I've seen Keegan have this much trouble defending a guy like this. So then Devin Carter came back in. Keegan went to playing the center. And Monk started to get annoyed with the officiating, goes down, doesn't get a foul call. Kobe White gets a foul call. LaVine goes down, drives, misses a layup, and Monk wanted a foul call on that. And I thought the officiating was completely fair in this game. I had no problem with it. And so it's just one of those moments where like Monk has to calm down. And it wasn't even like something happened in the heat of the moment where he got a technical, but he just picks up a technical because he's talking too much to the ref. And that just can't happen when you're down 4 late in the game, made it 5. And then Kobe White hits a transition 3 to go up 8. And that transition 3 felt like the dagger. The Kings had a couple more opportunities. They got the ball inside to Trey Lyles twice, but he missed the second one, which was killer. And then Kobe White attacked a 2-on-1 where it was Malik Monk and Zach LaVine back defending. And Kobe White goes right at Monk. And LaVine just, like, he didn't feel into it. He wasn't there to help defend at the rim, even though there was no one else around. It didn't feel like he was really into this game. And I mean, the Kings stayed in this for most of it because, like, Monk got to the rim easily. DeMar got to the rim easily. And we saw how easily we could attack this Bulls defense, but we just should have been doing that more throughout the game and couldn't get a stop. And it was 2 wide open Huerter corner threes. That was the end. So that's fitting. I said the one thing I didn't want to see coming in this game was Kevin Huerter get any open looks and have a revenge game. Well, he went 10 for 16, 5 for 9 from 3 for 25 points, 7 assists, 4 steals, a block. Yeah, that's a revenge game. That's a rough one. But the Kings just shouldn't have put themselves in that position. They were up 19. They could have absolutely kept their foot on the gas, could have gotten inside, could have been better offensively at that point, but also at any point they could have played some defense, especially early on. I feel like is what really gets me when the Kings just weren't getting back in transition after made baskets. I think that's the defense that kills me the most, and also just the way that the Kings ended the second quarter, letting the Bulls get back into the game a little bit. Because once Kobe White gets cooking, it's extremely hard to stop him, and so they just needed to not put themselves in that position. So we can look at it one of two ways. Either we beat Cleveland so we can stomach this loss, or, man, that sucks, we wasted a great game against Cleveland. But the Kings need to look at what they've been doing these last 2 weeks, allowing 133, 130, 122, 122, 119, 128. And some of that is missing Sabonis. I know some people don't understand what he provides defensively, but he absolutely would help this Kings team defensively with the rim protection and size and rebounding that he does provide. And also, he can guard the perimeter more than Valanciunas can. So that's a small part of it. But then also, I just think you keep seeing these positive performances from your guys off the bench, and all 4 guys off the bench in this game. We can start by looking at their box scores. They came in and they provided defense. These are all guys that can play defense. But again, that's just the problem where your starting lineup is the offensive players, your bench is the defensive players. That's not really how the NBA works. But Lyles came in and played 24 minutes and scored 22 points, 6 rebounds, had 3 assists, had a block, went 4 for 7 from 3. If he can start heating up from 3, that would be massive because he's really struggled this season. But what he was providing on both ends of the court, and it wasn't just his 3-point shooting. He was also, when the offense was going nowhere, he was driving into the lane, he was drawing fouls, he was providing rim protection. So a huge game from him, another one where he needs to step up and play because Valanciunas gets played off the court. So stepping up in the absence of Sabonis. LaRavia came in, played 22 minutes, and had 10 points, 7 rebounds, 3 assists. On a perfect 3 for 3 from the field. Kevin Huerter, another game where he gets a lot of minutes and plays well, 20 minutes. And he only had 4 points, 2 assists, 2 rebounds, but it was him being our best option to guard Kobe White and getting some minutes down the stretch. But you could just see the way that the Kings were mixing lineups down the stretch. Doug Christie just didn't know what to do. Like Zach LaVine was sitting for some of it. And so it's like it's very clear that we have no idea what our best closing lineup is. But Kevin Huerter has been playing well enough in the past couple of games that he has been a part of our best lineups. Keon had a rough one when it came to fouling for another game. He had 4 fouls. LaRavia had 4 fouls. Keegan had 4 fouls and Monk had 4 fouls. They were all just struggling with fouling too much. And Keon had some nice moments. He had a couple of steals where he sparked some things in transition. He also had some not so great plays defensively and didn't knock down a shot. But this was the second game in a row that his foul trouble gets him out of the game, and Kevin Huerter steps up into those minutes. And so those guys off the bench, those 4 guys right now, continue to be the guys that really impress and provide the defense and the intensity that the Kings need to be able to win games. But the Kings just need more of that. Going to the starting lineup, Monk led us, of course, with 34 points in 34 minutes. Went 5 for 10 from 3, continues to shoot well from there. 12 for 19 from the field. Add in 5 assists. He had a great game. Relentless attacking. Early on, of course, he was settling for those threes, but he was hitting them. And then once he stopped hitting every single 3, then it didn't take him too long to really start getting downhill. And so he's just been looking very confident. But then on the other side, you have Zach LaVine, who plays just 1 minute less, 33 minutes, and only has 8 points on 2 for 9 shooting. And I thought early on, like at the end of the first quarter, when he was running a bench lineup, I thought it looked good. He had some nice moments of driving inside and kicking out and making things happen. And he ended up with 5 assists on the game. But the lack of aggressiveness offensively, the lack of decisiveness, the lack of attacking the rim, only 3 shot attempts inside the 3-point arc was just super disappointing, along with not having a good game defensively. DeMar, 22 points on 9 for 22 shooting. It was an up and down game for him. There were definitely times where we needed him to just kind of get the ball and try to score for us because there wasn't much else happening. But there were some times where I felt like he was forcing things a bit. But it was an okay game for DeMar. Keegan had 10 points, 9 rebounds, 3 blocks. He was very good protecting the rim, except when Kobe White was driving by him and he was fouling him every single time. If you just take out him guarding Kobe White in the second half, Keegan had a very good game. Knocking down the shots he needed to, driving when he needed to, the great rim protection. But man, did he get killed by Kobe White in the second half. And then Valanciunas, 6 points, 5 rebounds in 15 minutes, 3 for 7 from the field. His finishing hasn't been great recently, but the big thing is him just not being mobile enough to get out and guard the perimeter. That means he's not playing that many minutes. And so really that's just a matchup thing. The Kings' next game, they're up against the Bucks. I know last game the Bucks didn't have Dame, so I don't know if he's going to be playing. But the thing I'm really worried about against the Bucks is the physicality, because you have Giannis. So trying to play Valanciunas out there, I'm not sure how that's going to go, especially when Brook Lopez is definitely going to be trying to stretch the floor. But we're going to have to be guarding Giannis while guarding Brook Lopez, while guarding Kyle Kuzma. that seems like it's going to be tough for this Kings team. And I think Jake LaRavia is going to be extremely important defensively. Obviously, Keegan will be as well. We might see a lot of Trey Lyles trying to guard Giannis because our answer for Giannis or Zion has been kind of just throwing Sabonis on them for his strength, but we don't have Sabonis. So I feel like we're going to see Trey Lyles. I don't know, this could end very poorly. We got absolutely dominated by Giannis last time. But if we can somehow not let Giannis get a layup on every single possession, then we got a chance because they don't have that much depth. They got some guys off the bench that are a little bit one-dimensional in like an AJ Green, a Kevin Porter Jr., a Gary Trent Jr. But first things first is going to try to stop Giannis. It's just going to be about the physicality. And so if we go by the fight that they had in the Cavs game, then I could totally see them doing it. If we go by the physicality and fight that they had against the Bulls here, then, it's not looking good. And so I feel like it's what defensive version of the Kings shows up. But if we try to roll out the same starting lineup, I don't know how we're ever going to try to defend Giannis. But we'll see how it goes. Anyways, that is it for this episode of the Roll Report. I will be back on Saturday to recap that game against the Bucks. So I will see you guys then. Peace.